Donald Trump's European travel ban has kicked in, but it has emerged that Americans flying home will only be allowed to travel through 13 airports and they will not be tested for coronavirus when they land at the border.
Trump's announcement of the ban on Thursday made no mention of any tests at the origin country, and it does not say how it will stop Europeans, who are banned from the U.S., from getting on the plane.
Once the passengers arrive back in America, they will go to customs and then to enhanced screening, where they won't have their temperatures taken or be tested for COVID-19, but where they'll be asked a series of questions about their medical conditions and travel history.
Then, they'll be advised to self-quarantine and follow CDC guidelines.
Upon arrival, travelers will proceed to standard customs processing. They will then continue to enhanced entry screening, where the passenger will be asked about their medical history, current condition, and asked for contact information for local health authorities.
These are the Department of Homeland Security's restrictions on Americans returning home from Europe, as of Friday afternoon.
Effective for flights taking off at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time on Friday, March 13, Americans returning from all restricted countries will now be required to travel through the following 13 airports.
Boston Logan International Airport, Boss, Massachusetts.
Chicago O'Hare International Airport, ORD, Illinois.
Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, DFW, Texas.
Detroit Metropolitan Airport, DTW, Michigan.
Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, HNL, Hawaii.
Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, ATL, Georgia.
John F. Kennedy International Airport, JFK, New York.
Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, California.
Miami International Airport, MIA, Florida.
Newark Liberty International Airport, EWR, New Jersey.
San Francisco International Airport, SFO, California.
Seattle Tacoma International Airport, C, Washington.
Washington Dulles International Airport, IAD, Virginia.
Upon arrival, travelers will proceed to standard customs processing. They will then continue to enhanced entry screening, where the passenger will be asked about their medical history, current condition, and asked for contact information for local health authorities.
Passengers will then be given written guidance about COVID-19 and directed to proceed to their final destination, and immediately home quarantine in accordance with CDC best practices.
Acting HS Secretary Chad Wolf said the passengers would be identified before their flights and put on planes to the designated airports by the airlines, at no cost to them.
Passengers will then be given written guidance about COVID-19 and directed to proceed to their final destination, and immediately home quarantine in accordance with CDC best practices, the announcement read.
Department of Homeland Security Acting Secretary Chad F. Wolf described the measures as aggressive.
He added, to minimize disruptions to travelers, TSA, CBP, and air carriers are working to identify qualifying passengers before their scheduled flights.
These passengers will be rerouted to one of the 13 airports by their airline at no cost to them, he said.
The measures are far less severe than had been suggested by Trump in his address, or promised by him on Thursday.
Trump insisted that Americans would be tested for the virus before they got on planes in Europe, and that if any of them tested positive for the virus, they would not be allowed to board.
He failed to give any context for those plans, like who would provide the tests, where he would find them, and what would happen to an American who tested positive.
The department's announcement on Friday afternoon extends a theme of mixed messages that has been coming from the White House, health officials, Trump and Vice President Mike Pence as the chaos escalated this week.
As of Friday night, there were 2,000 people in America to have been diagnosed with coronavirus and 48 people have died from it.
Trump boasted on Friday that he had been able to stave off the virus and that only 40 had died from it in America by taking decisive action to stop flights from China earlier this year.
The European travel ban threw up a range of questions and plunged the global markets into complete disarray this week.
Initially, Trump said the UK and Ireland would be exempt from it because they have strong borders.
On Friday, after widespread criticism of that plan from health experts and others who pointed out the fast climbing numbers of the virus in the UK, he said he was open to revisiting it.
Thousands of Americans scrambled to get home on Friday, often paying thousands of dollars for their fare before the borders close.
U.S. airlines like Delta have also begun pulling their flight schedules to Europe, raising the question that transatlantic travel may soon be entirely halted for the entirety of Trump's 30-day ban.
There remains an abundance of questions over how long the virus will last, how it will impact America, and how Americans will be able to rid themselves of it.
There is currently no cure and no vaccine, and only the severely sick or people showing severe symptoms are being given tests due to a shortage and lack of lab staff.
Trump declared a national state of emergency as the World Health Organization named Europe the new epicenter of the coronavirus Friday, with countries sealing borders, shutting schools and canceling events in a frenzied attempt to slow the ballooning pandemic.
Americans traveling in Europe scrambled to buy last-minute plane tickets, in some cases spending thousands of dollars each, in hopes of speedily returning to the country before President Trump's travel ban comes into effect.
One family of 3 paid nearly $8,000 for 3 one-way tickets from Paris to New York.
I feel like they were putting a price tag on people's safety, Coral McNary told ABC News on Friday.
That's scary, especially if people can't afford it.
Jake Jenichowski, an American who was traveling in Switzerland, made it back home just in time before the ban kicked in.
He said that when he arrived, there was no screening for coronavirus.
Just made it through customs, Jenichowski told ABC News shortly after arriving back in the States.
He said arriving passengers were asked if they had flu-like symptoms, but they were not asked if they had been to Italy or any other country hard hit by the coronavirus.